So I have a really good story today that I want to share with you guys about a time that me, Stas, and Caro went to climb Hydrophobia in the North Coast. It's technically the North Coast. It's in Whiteout. Anyways, if you don't know Hydrophobia, it's a phenomenal, I want to say it's maybe 150-meter climb of like actual good pitches. It's a phenomenal climb, WI5 plus. But really funny story how we got totally lost in the dark and did a whole bunch of donuts, and I'll tell you guys about it in this episode. What is up, guys? For those of you new to the channel, my name is Philip Setter. I'm an avid Canadian outdoor enthusiast, rock climber, ice climber, backcountry skier, as well as an insurance broker who specializes in insuring those individuals. So if that sounds interesting, I'll put a link in the description. Check it out. But let's just get right into the episode. Yeah, so this is actually, this is a pretty good story. I've told it a couple of times, and then Stas told me a few other times this has happened to him. So this was maybe 2 years ago. This is like 2020. Stas was in town with his girlfriend, Caro, and we were like beginning of the season. We were looking at things to warm up on, things to do. And we're like, oh, let's go do Hydrophobia. So there's two different ways. For those of you who don't know, there's two different ways to get to Hydrophobia. There's the first way, which you go into the North Ghost. And so if you guys aren't familiar with the Ghost, it's a Ghost River wilderness region. So if you're not in Canada, you might not be aware of it. But it's this phenomenal ice climbing area, like some of the best ice climbing around. But the problem is to get to it, you have to go on this like dirt road, and it's like not paved, and it's like an off-road paradise. But the problem is, like in the winter, you'll have these snow drifts that come in, and because it's so windy out there, it'll pile up these snow drifts. And then it's a massive off-road community as well. So you'll have these guys with like, 6-inch lifts, 8-inch lifts going out there with like 40-inch tires, 42-inch tires, and they just destroy the landscape. And so like for ice climbers, like some of the best ice climbers on the Ghost, like Rainbow Serpent, Fearful Symmetry, Hydrophobia, The Sorcerer, Lacey Gibbet, Anorexia, Wicked Wanda, Malignant Mushroom. Like there's so many good ice climbs in the Ghost, but getting out there as an ice climber, it's like, well, you need like a super awesome off-road rig. So I do not have that. I have like a Jeep Cherokee. I put like a little leveling kit on it. I think I have maybe 31-inch tires on it, maybe 31 and a half. But at the time, I didn't actually have any of that. I just had the stock lift on it. I had these stock tires on it. Like it was a piece of crap. And so that's the first way to get to Hydrophobia is you go in through the North Coast, and you have to go through these river crossings and like ice shelves and like all this other crap, and like up this road. And like it's pretty full on getting there. And so the day that we were going to go, there was a huge storm in the forecast around like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and it was supposed to hit everywhere. It was supposed to hit the Ghost, Canmore, Banff, like it was like a blizzard coming in. And so I said, listen, I think I can get us in, no problem, but we just got to make sure we get out, because if it snows quite a bit, like I don't know if we're getting out. And like there's no cell phone reception in the Ghost. Like it's like the Badlands basically. Like it's crown land, meaning you can do whatever you want out there. So people are usually like shooting their guns off there. They're camping there. They're cutting down trees. They're hunting. Like it's the wild, wild west out there. It's like totally insane. If you've never been there, I highly recommend you going. It's awesome out there. So anyways, he's like, no problem. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get out, and we'll be on our way. So that's the first way to get there is through the North Coast. The other way to get there is through Whiteout. And at the time, I had never gone that way before, and I didn't know that it was way easier to go that way, albeit a little bit longer of a hike in. It takes maybe about 2.5 hours to 3 hours. And it's just kind of like monotonous walking, like you're walking through a field forever. It's just this flat field with snow. It's just like, oh, but the driving is significantly easier to go in the Whiteout way. It's super chill, takes a little bit longer to drive in, and takes a little bit longer. Well, maybe takes the same amount of time to drive in, but takes a little bit longer to walk for sure. But anyways, so I didn't know this at the time. So we go ahead, we park, and basically when you get to the North Coast side, you park and you just walk through this forest for like, it felt like ever, like 2 hours. You're like skirting around the side of this mountain, trying to find the right cirque to get into. And when we were walking there, we basically we took it too high. And so we're going too high up the side of this forest. And then we had to like climb down a little bit, and, it took a little bit extra time. Excuse me. So anyway, so we got in there and we said like, okay, well, we're not going to do that on the way back. Let's just like, find a different way back. Like we'll, not go so high, and then we won't lose so much elevation. And so no problem. So we get to the climb, and then we're getting closer. And we're like, oh no, like, do we see someone on the climb? We're like, no way. Like we like woke up so early, we got there, and sure enough, we got to the climb, and it was actually my good buddy Chris Irwin, who's a guide here in Banff, and phenomenal ice climber. But he was there with 2 clients, and they were climbing it, and we're like, okay, crap, is that it? Like, is that the end of the day? And they're like, no. Like Stas was like, no, we will go up it. Don't worry. I'm like, okay, for sure. Like whatever, So we came up, and, we're like, hey, like, do you mind if we climb, to the right? And of course the right side is like, totally like chandelier and like, poor protection, and like, it's terrible. And Chris is like, yeah, I mean, sure. If you want to go to the right, it looks shitty. And also, I might drop bombs on you and me and my clients. And like Stas is so like he's addicted. He loves climbing, right? Like not very many things will stop him from getting on a climb. Like usually it's like, no, we're here, we're doing it, right? He's super excited that way. And so anyways, finally we started up, and he climbed the first pitch 70 meters, all the way into this little cave. And then by the time he finished, the other parties, Chris and his 2 clients, they had started climbing. And so like we could see bombs were just being dropped, like huge chunks of ice, like right by, our head. And we hadn't started yet. So we were like, okay, like, let's just wait a little bit until they stop, like these bombs stop dropping. And so, yeah, finally they stopped dropping. And so we climbed up, got to him. And then they were rappelling at that point. So they rappelled and went down. Stas led the second pitch as well. He got to the top. And then we came up after we got to the top. And, just because we had to wait so much, we were waiting for Chris, and then we were waiting for him to rappel, because he didn't want us obviously to climb above his clients while they were rappelling, because, he didn't want us to drop bombs on them, obviously. It took way longer. And the whole day I'm telling Stas, I'm like, listen, man, I'm like, you do not understand. Oh, that's what I forgot to tell you guys. Yeah. So on that, and that's another reason why we were late. On the way in to drive in, I blew a tire, and we got a flat tire. And so there's like an extra wheel on a Cherokee, right? So it's not not a donut, but like a full size tire. And so I changed it, but now I'm down to like 4 tires. That's it. I had no spare. And so I had already popped a tire. We'd already changed it for the day. And it was already getting late, and I knew there was a storm coming, and I did not have this was when my Cherokee didn't have the lift to it, didn't have like the aftermarket tires, the oversized tires. And so I told Stas, I was like, listen, dude, we 100% have to get the fuck out of here before this storm comes in. Because if this storm hits, like, I cannot guarantee that we're going to make it out of here. And he's like, no problem. No, we will make it. Don't worry. And so anyway, so we finish up the climb. We wrap down. And we're packing up our bags, and it's like, I think it's like 5:30. Like, it's just getting dark. This storm is just coming in. So now it's blizzarding. Visibility is really poor. And so I'm like, okay, no worries. So I March. And this is the first time that I've done hydrophobia. I think it might be the first time. No. And maybe it wasn't Stas' first time. It was my first time. So I'm not familiar with the area. And anyway, so we're going out now. And we're marching out, but we didn't. Here's what we didn't do. We didn't take our tracks, because we had tracks in the snow that we could have so easily followed, and we could have just put our head down and followed these tracks. And yeah, we would have had to like gain a little bit more elevation and then lose it, but we would have been, just on the tracks. And so I'm like, but we didn't do that. And so we're marching out. We're going more towards the flat side. And I'm just like marching for it. At this time, it's like 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock. It's blizzard conditions. Like you can see 5 feet in front of you, and you're in the middle of this forest, right? And you're bushwhacking through this forest. And I'm going like, I know that the Jeep is like that way, right? And I'm headed like dead straight that way. And I march for like 30 minutes. I'm marching dead straight forward, like 100% right to that Jeep. And I'm like, we got to get there ASAP. And the next thing I know, I see in front of us, and I see these tracks, and I'm like, oh yeah, like thank God. Like, yeah. Like someone, this must have been like Chris or someone else. This must be tracks to get back to the Jeep, back to the road where we parked. And I'm like running. I'm like, yeah, let's get to the tracks. And I run towards the tracks. And I look, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, these are our tracks. So for like 45 minutes, we did a full 180, like a full donut, a full like 360. Like we just went in a huge circle for like 45 minutes. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but if you like, if in your head you're going like dead straight, if in your head you're like, I'm going 100% straight, and your like sense of direction is you're like, hey, I'm moving, the mountains are, you know, that way, and da, and then next thing you know, you're like, wait a second, I'm back where I started. Like my mind was like broken after that. Like anxiety set in, and I was like, oh my God, I'm trapped in this forest, I'm gonna die in this forest. Anyways, yeah, so I had, I mean, at the time I didn't laugh that much because I was like stressed out, because I'm like, are we going to be stuck here for the night? Like, you know, because there was like snow was falling at this point. Like there'd already been like 3 or 4 inches that had fallen in like an hour, and I was like, we need to get the fuck out of here now. So anyways, I took out the because I was following my phone before. Don't ever follow your phone. So I took out my, because there's no good like reception out there, and like GPS all over the place. So I just took out my compass, and I was like, well, I think it was southwest or something like that. I don't know. But I was like, okay, I know we need to go southwest. So I stared down at my compass basically for the next like 2 hours, and like I'm looking at this compass, and I'm like, I feel like we're going in circles, but I'm like, just look at the compass, stare down at this, just keep it pointed southwest, and just go. And so, I mean, sure enough, after 2 hours, and it's just like thick forest you're going through, you know, like tons of foliage. You're like, you know, going left and then going right to try and get around everything. But sure enough, 2 hours later, you know, we finally, as it starts to like change, we start to see like the different forest starts to open up, and then we're in the marsh, and then we get up and we get on the road. And there was like, by the time we got to the Jeep, there was like, I don't know, like 6 to 8 inches of snow that had dropped on the Jeep. We're taking it all off. And yeah, and then that was like a whole journey to get out, because there was some super steep hills that we had to go down that we just like, I put it in like downhill descent in the Jeep and slowly went down, and then yeah, and then got to it. But yeah, so yeah, we eventually we got out. We like, as soon as I was on the road, I could like stop white knuckling the Jeep, and we made it. It was still an awesome day. I guess the moral of the story, which I've actually done to this day, is no matter what, if you're in doubt, always just follow your tracks back out. Don't try and get cute and follow and make a new track and do anything like that. Because like it's 99% of the time, it's just, especially in the dark, it's just easier. Like you might have to go more up and more down because it wasn't the most efficient path that you came up on, but it doesn't matter because you're not going to have to think about where you're going. You just have to look for the next footprint and you just go back. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little story. I have a bunch more stories that I want to share with you, and I figured this would be a good way to do it since I haven't been able to do a lot of climbing lately, but I do have a lot of stories. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you guys did, all I ask is that I get a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.